the whole purpose of this project was purely to document history, right? We were there at these unique, fascinating historic moments throughout probably the most consequential election in American politics. The real sort of premise of the whole series is purely just to sort of show that trajectory of how we got to, or how America got to where it got to at the end, but also it's this sort of fascinating insight, a portrait into this incredibly complicated and controversial family.
He's very honest, and he is who he is, and I think people love that, actually.
You talk about wanting to humanize them or just show us that they are humans, because this is a family that has been very stage managed and has stage managed themselves very effectively. But in the trailer that came out from your film, they're literally stage managing their shots, right? Does it give us insight into their personalities or what they're thinking about, their control?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, that they themselves almost remove some of their humanity by all the stagecraft, by all the sort of the fascination and the obsession with the way sort of they come across. And look, for sure, when people are being interviewed or go on camera, they want to sort of make sure they look okay. I think the level of detail that goes into them seeing themselves is pretty fascinating. I mean, there's that clip of the President of the United States of America moving around a glass of water for a minute and a half.
I don't think you want to have the water in the picture, right? You can take it off.
Some people may see that as being somebody who's got immense attention to detail, and he is actually far more on it than people may think. And others will think it's obviously ludicrous. This is a family that almost tried to remove the real, and everything is sort of this facade. So any sort of ability to sort of go behind that and sort of see what they're really like is really interesting. And people may say that actually the reality is even worse, perhaps, than the facade, or it might be better than the facade. And why do they do that? So I think it opens up sort of a whole host of questions as to who these people are and what do they really believe, and do they really know what they're doing?
Why did the Trump family want to do this? Why did they want this moment documented?
They were absolutely convinced they were going to win the election prior to us starting. So therefore, why not get this guy that no one's ever heard of before, who is going to film us win the election? The question I still try and work out is why they continued, what sort of the access that continued after the election. And then there's also more answers. No, there was definitely a mentality as to whether or not they may actually achieve their goal of potentially overturning the result.
When were you last in touch with the Trump family?
I'm not going to answer that question, I'm sorry.
Have you been in touch with them in recent weeks?
I'm also, I don't want to sort of talk about that too. Yeah, that's too much. That's okay. I'm sorry.
What is your relationship like with Donald Trump? Do you feel like you were sort of a fly on the wall, sort of witnessing, or did you have a relationship?
I think as to his character and as to sort of how he comes across, I think this series really does show a side to him, which is really interesting. Look, I've always said that they're always on time. Very professional in terms of the practicalities of the interviews and their participation in it. In terms of my feelings, I've made that really clear, which is that I think it's incredibly dangerous and irresponsible for a president of the United States to have to take umbrage with the most important part of any sort of functioning democracy. Can we talk for a minute about January 6th?
Yeah.
It's always there, right? It's always sort of in the back of your mind. So any sort of interaction you have, you're sort of thinking like you can't really engage sort of too well with somebody who has done something that's so damaging.